Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. This is the latest entry in the Dragon Quest series from the Enix side, I guess, of Square Enix, and directed by Takeshi Uchikawa. And I believe this is his first directorial credit, so good job, I guess. Well done on the promotion. Dragon Quest XI is a very traditional turn-based JRPG, and is the first entry in the Dragon Quest series to come out in the West since Dragon Quest VIII, which came out on the PS2. So it's been a while. So Square Enix kind of has two big JRPG franchises. It has Dragon Quest, which it got from Enix, and it has Final Fantasy, which it got from Squaresoft when they made Square Enix. Anyway, Final Fantasy has gone off on this kind of weird tangent of not really understanding what it's about, and it's trying to stay current with current gaming trends and all that. Whereas Dragon Quest doesn't. Dragon Quest doesn't care. Dragon Quest is just going to stay traditional turn-based JRPG, and you're all just going to have to sit there and like it, which is good because it's a good game. You take on the role of the Luminary, who is tasked with defending the world of Erdrea from the Shadow King or the Shadow Lord or whatever the hell his name is. It's very traditional. Farm boy finds out he has a secret destiny to save the world. Despite it being a very, cookie cutter story plot, there is actually some fairly decent twists and misdirection in the story, and it doesn't quite follow the same traditional trend. It's still very much like the old Dragon Quest games. It's still turn-based, it's still party-based. They've made some concessions to it. There's free movement in combat, and you can set your characters or party members to be AI controlled, so you kind of have the illusion that it's real time, but it's not. It's still turn-based, and even in my defense, I turned off all of those and just had it look as traditional as possible. Art style you might recognize is Akira Toriyama, Dragon Ball Z, and all that. That's why they look like Saiyans and so on. Party members have a lot of different skill trees based on the weapons they use, so pretty much every party member has 2 weapons they can use, and some have 3. And there are skill trees based around those weapons, so you can, if you like, just focus on one weapon and build it up, or spread it out and focus on a couple of different weapons. You'll have some weapons that are designed purely for damage, you'll have some that are better for defense, you'll have some that are better for groups, some that are better for magic, and so on. So you can kind of mix and match and kind of custom make your party the way you want them to, which is fun. So the characters don't have a predefined ability list or a predefined end point. You can kind of build them up as you want them to be. Another nice thing, and it's something I've actually always wanted, so the Dragon Quest games, certainly from 8, have this kind of alchemy system where you would take mixable components and you'll get a new thing out of it. This has the same idea. You've got this portable kind of forge that you can use to make weapons, but it has a little mini game in it where you have to hammer out the items. I've always wanted some kind of game system built into crafting or built into forging. A lot of games it's just, do you have the required items and you press a button and you get the thing. It's very boring in my opinion. I like that there's a little mini game for this. It can be a little annoying sometimes, sure, but I like that they tried something, and it is for the most part kind of fun. One thing that is a bit annoying to me is the main character is mute. I know that's a tradition in JRPGs. It's a tradition I'd rather they got rid of, to be honest. But otherwise, this is a very, very high quality traditional turn-based JRPG. If that's what you're into, if you're into the old Final Fantasy, the old Dragon Quests, you really can't go wrong with this. Dragon Quest XI originally released in Japan, July of last year, 2017, and has released in the West. It is on PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, and PC. I think it's on 3DS as well. No Xbox version, as far as I'm aware, because no one in Japan likes Xboxes. Anyway, definitely check it out if you're into these kind of games. This is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, developed by Eidos Montreal, published by Square Enix, and directed by Daniel Shire. Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the latest entry in the rebooted Tomb Raider series, so following from Tomb Raider, and then Rise of the Tomb Raider, and now we have Shadow of the Tomb Raider. So this game is following those action-adventure type deal. To be honest, it feels very much like Rise of the Tomb Raider 2.5 or 1.5 maybe, whatever way you want to look at it. Basically, it's that game again with some extra stuff on rather than a full kind of, fleshed out. It just feels a little too similar to the last game. And that's probably because the developer, Eidos Montreal, were not part of Tomb Raider and Rise of the Tomb Raider. That was by Crystal Dynamics, who are off working on something else, probably the Avengers game. And Eidos Montreal took over for this entry. So I'm guessing they didn't want to try out anything too weird or too new. They kind of just stuck with what they had from Rise and just added a few things on. Story-wise, Lara, early in the game, kind of sets in motion this Mayan apocalypse. And that wasn't a good thing. So the rest of the game is kind of stopping the Mayan apocalypse. Would probably be a good start. You're still following Trinity, who are still the worst villains I could possibly think of. They're just, anonymous corporate douchebags. Anyway, there's a kind of strange tone shift. Like, I've always kind of felt that the newer Tomb Raider games were kind of light. I mean, there was still some awful shit happening in it, but they were still fairly light in tone. Kind of like a Saturday morning cartoony, well, okay, that's maybe not to that end, but, kind of your popcorn blockbuster type of thing. But Shadow of the Tomb Raider kind of wants Lara to be like, oh, what have I done? I'm a terrible person, and I just kill people, and everything I do turns to shit, and whatever. Which is kind of true, but also the game wants you to kind of say, no, Lara, you're great. But no, you actually do murder people, and you're a terrible person. Anyway, I don't know. There's a weird tone change in the story anyway. There are some new things. Stealth seems to be the bigger change. So Lara can go full Predator now, or not full Predator, full Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Predator by throwing mud on herself and hiding amongst the leaves, or jumping down from trees and stringing people up, that kind of thing. They are good. I do like the new stealth stuff. It's just that seems to be all the new things are. There's a rappel now. You can rappel down cliff faces, and you can swing. It's not quite the level that Uncharted 4 has, but it's there. It's fun. It's more of the newer Tomb Raider games, and they are good. Like, this is not to say that this game is bad. It's not. It's a good game, but it's not Tomb Raider 3. If you like, it's 2.5. Game is available on PC, PS4, and Xbox One. Like I said, if you liked the last Tomb Raider games, this is more of the same, and that might be a bit disappointing, but at the same time, it's still a good game. This is Spider-Man, or Marvel's Spider-Man, as I learned when I tried to look this up. Developed by Insomniac Games, published by Sony Interactive Entertainment, and directed by Brian Horton, Brian Intihar, Marcus Smith, and Ryan Smith. Insomniac Games probably best known for Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive. Maybe not too well known for Sunset Overdrive, I don't know. Marvel's Spider-Man is a open world adventure game. Very similar, very, very similar to Arkham City. It shares a lot of systems with the Arkham games. Namely, combat. Combat is very similar to the Arkham series. I would say it's a bit looser than Arkham in that you're not really ping-ponging around enemies, you're not countering enemies exactly. There's a much higher emphasis on evasion, dodging, and juggling in Spider-Man, but it's still, once you start fighting it, you'll feel very much at home if you've played the Arkham games. Stealth as well. The stealth systems in Spider-Man, again, very similar to Arkham's in that you're kind of swinging from hanging points and you can pull enemies off their feet or come up behind them and stealth them that way. In a way that it differentiates itself from Arkham is that stealth and combat kind of go together. In the Arkham games, they're kind of split in that this is a stealth section or this is a combat section, and neither the two will meet. Whereas Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man, they're very much one and the other together. I never really thought of Spider-Man as a stealth fighter, I guess. Very much something I think of for Batman, but not for Spider-Man. Which kind of makes sense because his stealth options are very good. But the most important thing to know about Spider-Man games is, what's the swinging like? What's the swinging like, Derek? It's really, really good. They fucking nailed the swinging in Spider-Man. There's a fantastic feeling of speed, mobility, agility. He's got not just swinging, your traditional swinging. You can zip line, he can point to point, he can bounce off things, he can wall run. A lot of these things very fluidly just move between each other, and you get this fantastic feeling of movement and speed as the Spider-Man. One thing I meant that's not really there is that he doesn't, this is very, very nitpicky, but he doesn't transfer from one line to another. He kind of swings, lets go, does a flip, and then starts swinging again, lets go, does another flip. Whereas he doesn't just transition from one to the other to the other. I don't know, that's just something I noticed. Another way it kind of, I'm going to keep bringing up Arkham because it's the easiest game to compare it to be fair. And if you haven't played them, maybe you won't get a lot of this. The map definitely has Ubisoft porn symbols everywhere. Lots of different things to do, lots of challenges to do, quests, side quests, random emergencies. There's a car speeding through the city, or there's a bunch of guys attacking somebody else, or there was a car crash. And then there's collectibles to pick up. There's a lot of pulling from the different characters and events that have happened in Spider-Man's career. So you are playing as the Spider-Man, Peter Parker, who's about like 5-6 years, I think they actually give a year, but I can't remember what it is, into his Spider-Man career. So he's been Spider-Man for a while, so it's not an origin story. And he's going up against Wilson Fisk at the beginning, and then later on some other Spider-Man enemies show up. His rogues gallery gets fleshed out, and you encounter a lot of them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There's definitely some notable absences that they're probably saving for the inevitable sequel, because this game did very, very well, and it should have, because it's a very good game. Some small things that I do appreciate. It's going to seem kind of stupid, but Spider-Man has a lot of different costumes and suits that you can earn through the game, through actually playing the game and not buying them. It's kind of silly that we have to say that that's a good thing, but there we go. There's a lot of different suits that you can earn through either progression to the story or by tackling certain challenges or finding collectibles and so on. And they give you different abilities, and not just having a different aesthetic. Whereas a lot of games have kind of gone down the rabbit hole of you need to buy this as a $5 DLC. I'm looking at you, Batman Arkham. Anyway. So I have completely finished Spider-Man at this point, 100% platinum. One of the necessarily easy platinums to get, but it's certainly a game that I wanted to get the platinum, let's put it that way. And there's some decent DLC for it as well. The City That Never Sleeps. There's some good content in that. I've played the first part of that. The second part should be out probably at the time of publishing, because I'm very late in getting this video. Anyway, Marvel Spider-Man is PS4 exclusive, so obviously you'll need a PS4, or find someone who owns one, I guess. It was also announced that it was nominated for Game of the Year at the Game Awards. It definitely deserves to be in contention for that. Very, very good game. If you can get your hands on it, do so. is The Messenger, developed by Sabotage Studio, published by Devolver Digital, and directed by Thierry Boulanger, I think. I mean, it was directed by him, I'm just not sure that's how you say his name. Anyway, The Messenger is a retro 2D side-scroller game. It's very similar to something like the old Shinobi games, or the old Castlevania, to be honest, any of those kind of things. It's very good. Now, I will preface this by saying I'm not very far in, but I'm enjoying what I've played so far. It is a kind of tough 2D action game, action platformer, where you play a ninja, part of a ninja clan, who has to stop evil people, and I'm not, again, not very far in. I'm sure there's a bit more to the story than that, but that's all I've gleaned so far. It's got some interesting mechanics. One mechanic that's very early in the game, you get more or less immediately, is the cloud jump or the cloud hop, I can't remember what it's called exactly, where you can jump a second time if you come into contact with something or if you attack something. So if there's a floating enemy and you jump, hit that enemy, you can then jump again. And this goes for other interactable things in the area. So if you jump and hit a post, attack the post, you can then jump again. Because it's something that's given to you so early in the game, you can imagine the whole game revolves around using that cloud jump. And it's a bit tricky to get right at the start, but once you get the timing down, it's pretty good. And definitely changes the mechanic of your kind of standard 2D game. It's a double jump, but it requires a bit of extra effort to use. The game is also very funny. There's a lot of meta jokes, and there's a lot of kind of in-jokes for gamers, if you like. It has an interesting death mechanic in that you will be resurrected when you die, so there's no life system. It's not quite that old school, it's still a bit new. But when you get resurrected, this little demon guy follows you around, giving you shit for being so bad at the game. And he won't go away until he's been paid. And the way he gets paid is you have to pick up money around the levels, as you would normally do. But rather than you getting to keep the money, he keeps the money. And either you pay him enough or he gets bored and fucks off. You know, one or the other. They're very funny about it. The whole game itself is quite humorous, even though it's being very difficult. As I said, not very far into it. I know that the game has a kind of time shifting mechanic that I have not encountered yet, so anyone who's played the game probably knows how early I am in the game right now. But I'm liking what I'm seeing, I'm liking what I'm playing, and I'm liking what I'm hearing has to come. So hopefully I will get some of these gargantuan games off my plate, and we'll finally get a chance to really play this properly. Anyway, check it out, The Messenger. It is on PC and Nintendo Switch. So those were some of the games I played for September 2018. Spider-Man, or Marvel's Spider-Man. If you ever have to look it up in the A to Z, it's under M for some reason. Probably the standout, mostly because it was the one I just played relentlessly for that month. Very, very good. Hopefully it does well in the awards. Probably won't beat God of War or Red Dead Redemption, but whatever. Dragon Quest XI, fantastic return to form. Or continuation of form, I guess, if you want to put it that way. Great JRPG. Very close to the end of it now. Feeling pretty good about it. The Messenger, I haven't played a lot of it. I am liking what I've played, but you know, I need to put more time into that. And with gigantic games on the horizon, Assassin's Creed and Red Dead and Kingdom Hearts 3, it might be a while before I get back to it. And Shadow of the Tomb Raider, good game. It's just a bit more of the same, a bit too much of the same thing. Would have liked them to have tried something different. But anyway, overall, good month. Next month, October, we'll be looking at Red Dead Redemption 2. So there's a lot of hype, super duper hype for that. Hopefully that'll turn out well. Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Liking what I'm hearing about that. Seems like hopefully Ubisoft aren't doing their yearly thing where they just churn out the same game and change a couple of things around. Hopefully not. Hopefully it's very good. Also looking at The Missing. There's a game by Swery that kind of came out of nowhere, so this should be interesting to see how that turns out. And also be looking at VR titled Tetris Effect, which is nice and bright colors and Tetris and music and rhythm. Sounds like it'd be pretty good. Sounds like it's a good fit for VR anyway. So let me know what you thought about this month's games, or next month's games, or next year's games, whatever you like. Let me know in the comments or on Twitter or whatever.